All right, AWA Super Sunday, April 24th, 1983, which makes this technically the earliest pay-per-view available on the WWE Network.
That's right. Now, there are people who claim that this did air on pay-per-view, but most people claim it didn't actually air on pay-per-view. It was closed circuit. Mm-hmm. But some people insist they watched it on pay-per-view. They may be mistaken, but regardless, it is the first supercard of this type that is available on the WWE Network. You got to go to the AWA Vault, go all the way back to 1983. This was a very, 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 very big show. I think they called it the largest indoor crowd in wrestling history.
They said that on the show.
That was not true.
No.
But it was a very, very big indoor crowd. I think they did 20,000, 30,000?
20,000 was the number I found in a 30-second Google search.
That's true. It's 20,000, and they had another 10,000 at like a closed circuit location or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was all... The main event of the show, we're not going to get to today, but it was Mad Dog Vachon and Vern Gagne against Adnan El Casey and Sheik Jerry Blackwell. That was the actual main event of the show, but that was not the main event of the show. Main event was the Hulk Hogan-Nick Bockwinkel match, which had been built up forever. Hulk Hogan, everyone talks about Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania and WWE. Hulkamania started in the AWA in 1981. And Hogan was a huge star.
Hulkmania at first.
Yeah, Hulkamania.
They added the A.
So Hogan was super over, and they booked him correctly. Kind of like... I better not do these comparisons. But anyway, they booked him very, very well. He never lost. He was a Superman. Built up to this match with Nick Bockwinkel. And all the fans thought, the day has finally come. This will be the show where Hulk Hogan wins the AWA World Heavyweight title from Nick Bockwinkel. And we'll talk about what happens when we get there. But all these fans that showed up, they were all here for Hulk Hogan to win the title. They were not here for Vern and the Mad Dog in the main event. Vern coming out of retirement for the second time, I believe.
So when you hit play on the show, the only two things I knew were there was a show called Super Sunday done in 1983. I was aware of the Bockwinkel Hogan main event, and that is all I knew about the show going in. So everything was new to me. It opened with Rocky Stone versus Brad Rheingans. Brad Rheingans was an Olympic wrestler who then turned pro. Rocky Stone was not.
This match, if you want to see babyface fire, this is the match for you.
There was some awesome, simple stuff in this.
Brad Rheingans, by the way, was the babyface.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
The early stuff was all clean wrestling, and Rheingans, is it Rheingans or Rheingans?
It's Rheingans.
Rheingans' biggest weapon was a really cool arm drag he did. Whenever he got in trouble, he would do a leapfrog, and Stone would turn around, and Rheingans would hit this arm drag and get back in control. And after the third or fourth time he'd done this, he tried it again. He went for the leapfrog. Stone says, motherfucker, and headbutts him in the sternum and drops him and takes over. Now, the other thing I noted it in this match, and I think in every single match. You always hear, you hear wrestlers say, you got to listen to the crowd to know what to do. You can't just write a script because you don't know how the crowd's going to react. You have to listen to the crowd and give them what they want. It's never been more clear than watching this show, because the babyfaces take over. They would do very boring arm drags or arm bars and headlocks, and eventually it would get boring, and somebody would start booing, and immediately the heels would take over. I've never seen wrestlers listen to the crowd so clearly as they did in this hour of television. So, eventually, Stone just beat him up for a while, threw him out of the ring. They had a long struggle to get him back in the ring, and finally Rheingans gets back in, and when it's time for his comeback and it's his time to fire up, never has a silent movie star or a vaudevillain or a cartoon character shown more pep. He leapt straight up in the air and swung his fists all around. And he makes this big comeback. He's beating him up, and he hits a drop kick, and he hits another drop kick, hits a gut-wrench suplex, and he wins.
Yes. This was a wrestling match opener. There was a fiery babyface who out-wrestled his opponent. Then he was cut off. He was a babyface in peril. He made a big, fiery babyface comeback. He had a couple of moves He won, the crowd cheered, and that's professional wrestling for you.
We had an interview with Brad Rheingans. He's in the ring with Mean Gene Okerlund, who, if I didn't mention, was the ring announcer, but he also did interviews. And he asked the guy, tell him about that suplex he won with. And Brad says, that's my favorite finisher, the suicide suplex. Excuse me? That's the worst name for a finisher I've ever heard.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like a gut-wrench suplex to me. Steve Regal versus Buck Zumhofe.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So this was not William Regal.
No, that's a good thing to note.
This was the original Steve Regal. Fucking Buck Zumhofe. It's a very different watching the match nowadays.
It sure is.
Buck's in prison right now.
Yeah.
Sexually assaulted his daughter for well over a decade.
Yeah.
He's in there for a long time.
Hopefully forever.
Here he is, the rock and roll Buck Zumhofe. He comes to the ring with a goddamn boombox. He's the babyface. People are cheering for Buck Zumhofe against Steve Regal.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And it's when we first started doing the Retro Nitro reviews, it took me a while to get used to watching Chris Benoit matches again.
Yes, you've got to watch it and watch it and watch it and just get into the mindset that I'm just watching a bunch of old matches and I'm trying to review them as if we're there at the time. I'm trying to record history here.
I'm trying to critique the art. I'm not used to watching Buck Zumhofe matches yet.
No, here he was, and I was like, oh my God.
The music starts playing, and I see that, the show has it's lit well. The camera work is very good, as Ron Trongard repeatedly said over and over again, which I made fun of him for, but the truth is it was shot much better than Raw in 2017. I could see what was going on. But he was the only guy who had music, Buck was, and I'm pretty sure it was legitimately coming out of the boombox he was carrying. And they had to edit it out for the show. But I just see this man come through the crowd waving this boombox, and I said, oh no. And it was Buck Zumhofe, and I got a little sick. So, they're doing this match. It's hard to... I am used to watching Benoit matches. I am not used to watching Buck Zumhofe matches. And considering the difference in the quality of the art, I don't plan on getting used to watching Buck Zumhofe matches either. So he was a funny looking wrestler. He ran the ropes funny. He took bumps funny. He threw punches funny. Regal was just a guy here. Just a competent professional wrestler. And Buck makes his comeback. There's a lot of arm bars in this match. And Buck makes his comeback running all over the place. He runs into a boot in the corner.
You know who he kind of looked like? I hate to even say, do you know?
I know it just hit me too.
Dalton Castle?
Yeah, he actually had the same haircut as Dalton Castle. Much creepier. He runs into a boot in the corner, but he cuts Regal off. I keep wanting to say Taylor for some reason. Cuts Regal off and hits a body slam and a Vader bomb for the win. And aside from Zumhofe's wacky running, this is mostly a boring match. Gene goes to interview him. Buck says he's going to defeat Mike Graham for the light heavyweight title with the help of the people. Jerry Lawler versus John Tolos.
John Tolos was 53 years old on this show. His best days behind him. And nowadays, you see a guy like Chris Jericho is 47 years old, or Chris Daniels 47 years old. Whatever it is, I mean, the guys, they last longer nowadays. Maybe supplements, better eating. I'm sure better eating is the majority of it, although I don't know how good Jericho's diet is. And he seems to enjoy drinking, so I guess he's just a physical marvel. I mean, his dad was a superior athlete. Genetics involved. Anyway, John Tolos looked like a 53-year-old guy. Doesn't move all that well.
No.
And listen, John Tolos is awesome. I met John Tolos at Cauliflower Alley. Super nice guy. Great guy. But he was very old here, and he didn't move very well. But this motherfucker could sell. He was so good at old school selling. Like, nobody grabs their head like this anymore.
No.
When they get waffled.
Yeah.
God damn this guy. It sounds so stupid. Like, young fans right now are listening to this going, what the fuck is Brian talking about? But older fans know exactly what I'm talking about. Nobody can sell their head like this anymore.
No. They did a spot where Lawler grabs Tolos by the head and throws his head into the turnbuckle. And Tolos sold this by clutching his head, as you noted, and he turned around and stumbled across the ring, but he was stumbling so fast, he ran into the other turnbuckle.
Yes.
I've never seen that before.
I haven't, and he made it work.
Yes.
Like, you hear this spot, and it's like, okay, so Super Porky did this.
Yes, or some...
No, John Tolos pulled this off and made it look... I bought it. I mean, I didn't really buy it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't look at it going, what the fuck are you making a mockery of this business for, you jackass? I looked at it like, that was awesome.
Yes.
Why does nobody else do that?
So there was all sorts of old schoolness here. I love wrestling heels who will jump their opponent before the bell rings. They'll sneak attack him to gain an unfair advantage, and then once they have that unfair advantage, they will go to perfectly legal wrestling moves. Arm ringers, after I've jumped you from behind. So Jerry'd ball up his fist, the ref would say, no, 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 and Tolos would pull him down by the hair. They did this over and over again. Lawler finally gets control. He puts him in a headlock, and he starts cranking in the headlock, and the crowd is counting along for each crank. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he's cranking and cranking and cranking. 7, 8, 9. Crank, crank, crank. 15, 16, 17. He gets into like the 20s, and the crowd gets bored with it and starts to boo. So he lets go. Tolos sells his head to being cranked like this, and Lawler punches him out. Somewhere in here, Tolos hit a punch. Lawler goes over the top rope. The bell rings, but the ref makes it clear it's a mistake. It was not an intentional throw over the rope.
Yes, you cannot intentionally throw your opponent over the top rope, but if you give them an uppercut near the ropes and they fly over...
You happen to punch him so hard he goes airborne.
I mean, to me, listen, if you uppercut a guy in pro wrestling near the ropes and the uppercut sends him up and over the ropes...
You should win.
That should be an intentional throw over the top rope.
I see.
Because you know when you uppercut a guy, he's going to leap high in the air.
I guess that's true. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
So finally, Tolos misses a knee drop, by the way. This 50-year-old guy going off the middle rope landing on his knees. That was something. And then Lawler hooks him for the pile driver. Place goes beyond ballistic. And then he hit the greatest pile driver I've ever seen.
It was so awesome.
He grabs him for a pile driver, and he lifts him up. And
now, before he even lifts him up, he grabs him, and I don't know what it is. Maybe because I've watched wrestling for so long, and they've banned it in so many different places and storyline, that it's like, oh my God, he's going to kill him. I was briefly worried for the future of John Tolos when he grabbed him for this pile driver. I thought he's going to kill him with this fucking move. And then he did.
He grabs for the pile driver, he lifts him up as Tolos is upside down, and time freezes for a minute. And Lawler didn't jump. Like when we did the Retro Raw, Billy Gunn did some jumping pile drivers, which in theory would be even more devastating than this. But what Lawler did was he stands up on his tiptoes, and then he sits down as fast as he can. This is much faster than just falling. He drove this guy's head into the mat and pinned him. It was great.
It was so awesome.
It was a very weird but very successful match.
This was better than Bryan Adams' pile driver.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Probably punches better than Bryan Adams, too. Judy Martin and Velvet McIntyre versus Joyce Grable and Wendy Richter.
I'm going to tell you something, everybody. With the exception of the big NXT TakeOver women's matches, and maybe a couple of matches on WWE pay-per-view events, this fucking match was better than 95% of the women's matches you see in WWE today. Like, WWE's created this myth that for years they were divas and they did goofy matches. Every now and then they create a history around, like, Lita and these great matches of yesteryear. And there's always talk about TNA and Kong and Gail Kim and how they revolutionized women's wrestling. Bullshit. This match from 1983 was so fucking good. These girls were awesome.
I remember, I was a 1980s wrestling fan, not in 83, but I remember 1980s WWF women's matches, and I believe at least 3 of these women wrestled in the WWF I was watching as a young child.
Yeah, for those of you that are wondering about the history of the AWA and Hulk Hogan, as we will find out, not winning the title and how the promotion went down and various reasons, the real reason it went down is, as we go over this card, this is 83, you're going to soon see that most of this roster is in WWF or Crockett 2 years later.
Pretty much.
That's the
A
problem.
giant talent drain. Never a good thing. Anyway, point is, I remember like Rockin' Robin when she was WWF champion. I remember the women's matches would be, they were better than they would be in like it disappeared for a while. And then you had Sable, who couldn't really wrestle. And then for a while it was okay. And they had some wrestlers, but then also some bikini models they tried to train to wrestle. And then it's gotten much better in the past 2 or 3 years. But what I remember about the 80s wrestlers was there a lot of hair mares, just tons and tons of hair mares. And other than that, just the very average stuff. They would do clotheslines, they would do stomps and kicks, but nothing great, unless you were watching the Jumping Bomb Angels. I should point that out. Anyway, so my expectations for this match were, okay, women's match in 1983. This will be and this card had not blown me away by this point, so I thought this would be no better or worse than much else in the card. So, babyfaces start to wrestle. By the way, Richter and Grable, I should point out, they were the heels. They were called the champions, and their name was the Texas Cowgirls, which I assume in the ensuing 30 years has to have been at least one porn movie. Anyway, Texas Cowgirls start this match, and the babyfaces are running wild forever. And Mean Gene lets us know, they're doing the 5-minute count-off for all the matches. So he lets us know 5 minutes have gone by. And the babyfaces run wild, and run wild, and run wild, and finally there's a smattering of boos, and immediately the heels take over. And they beat up Velvet for 2 minutes. And then I've seen, of all the hot tag spots I've seen, I'm sure I've seen this somewhere before, but usually it's like you dodge a move and you crawl to the corner, or they go for the finish, but you roll through and dive to the corner. Velvet just beat the hell out of her opponents, and as soon as they were beaten enough to give her some space, she went over and tagged her partner, and Judy ran wild.
Now, before we get to the hot tag, I swear to God in this match, I saw curb stomps.
Yeah.
I saw one girl stand. So one girl's on her back. The other girl is standing on her hair so she can't sit up. And meanwhile, she's stomping her in the face with her other foot.
That was Wendy, yes.
I was like, oh my God.
This is a brutal match.
This is the most brutal match I've ever seen.
So they had another heat segment, and then Velvet got a hot tag. I mean, she's doing this great old school, and I mean old school babyface comeback. It's all monkey flips and drop kicks and head scissors. And it breaks down into a 4-way. They did the best 4-way spot out of the corner I think I've ever seen.
It was an in-ring train wreck spot.
Yeah, it was planned to be this. So the baby faces are in opposite corners working over the heels, and they look at each other and they both grab their opponents in a headlock. And they're gonna ram them together. Trongar had a name for this move. It was not just noggin knocker.
Dude, we used to do this all the time in our goofy matches.
Yes.
Yep. The heels go to the corner and they grab a headlock on the baby faces. They go to run their heads together, but the baby faces shove them off and the heels bonk into each other.
Yeah. The key is
classic.
The key is the heels did it. Here it was the baby faces. So the baby faces have their opponents in headlocks. They go to run to the middle. The heels push them both off, but the baby faces throw in the brakes. They turn around. Both heels throw a kick to the gut, but the women both dodge and like go behind him and hit suplexes or something. It was great. So great. The place goes nuts for that. Then someone's laid out and they all take turns doing running, missing splashes.
And this goddamn ring did not move.
I noticed that too.
Oh my God.
This was a slab of granite with a canvas pulled across it.
Well, first off, the girls are all small. You know what I mean?
Also true.
They're all 155 and below probably, and the ring was already hard. So they leaped in the air and they just crashed.
Just crash and burn.
No movement of the ring whatsoever. It was like you dropped them like off the top of a truck and they just fell onto the cement. It was brutal.
Do you remember when the Road Warriors were up on a scaffold throwing fruit and tomatoes off?
That's exactly what happened here.
That's how they landed. So they finally cut Velvet off. Wendy hit a Rick Rude style backbreaker and then threw her down across Grable's knee. I forgot her name. Grable's knee. And then the heels won. Keep in mind this is a women's match in 1983. They had a backdrop powerbomb combo for the win.
Yes.
Wendy backdropped her. Grable caught her. Grable powerbombed her down and pinned her.
This match was so unbelievably good.
This is my new favorite match.
It was so good. I swear to God, you guys got to go watch this match if you're listening to this right now, which you obviously are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be hearing my voice. You must go watch this match. The myth that girls couldn't work in the 80s or whatever. God, this was by far the best match. We watched 5 matches on this show.
Yeah.
Because we're about to go over Wahoo McDaniel and Eddie Boulder. Yes.
Yeah, they had to follow this.
Brutus Beefcake. This was by far the best match on the show up to this point.
Did we mention the promo yet?
No.
Gene goes to interview the champs after the successful title defense, and they cut a hell of a promo. Judy Martin and Velvet McIntyre, they're great wrestlers, but we're the best. You know how we know? Because we got these belts. We're the champs and we're unbeatable. I want to stand up and cheer. The 1983 AWA Women's Division is now my favorite era ever in wrestling. This was awesome.
So great. And then, in the ring is a big, jacked up dude with a terrible bleach job. They say, Eddie Boulder. And I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking, we cannot escape Brutus Beefcake.
Yeah.
We're watching him right now as a fucking main eventer beating up Randy Savage every week on Nitro. I turn on the goddamn AWA and there he is. They announced that his opponent's going to be Wahoo McDaniel.
I giggled.
I thought, okay. So, Brutus just sucked beyond belief in the 90s.
Yes.
As a kid, like, I kind of liked the Brutus Beefcake character because he was a babyface, but even back then I knew dude wasn't really all that good in the ring. Well, here he is in 1983. I mean, maybe he was really good in the AWA and he just sort of progressively fell off a cliff as his career advanced. I mean, man, he's in there with Wahoo McDaniel. How can you fuck this up? Well, now I know why he was also known as Dizzy Hogan. Put this guy in the fucking teacup, spun him around till he couldn't walk, and then threw his ass in the ring. He stumbles all over the place. Just a fucking mess. Wahoo couldn't do a goddamn thing with him. What the hell was going on?
Yeah, it wasn't very good. It was funny. They did a clean handshake, and they were wrestling for about a minute, and the fans started to boo. And they said, all right, these fans have been sitting here for an hour now. They have seen wrestling. Let's give them a fight. And they tried to trade chops and punches, but it was beefcake, so there's not much Wahoo could do. Jerry Lawler joins the commentary team, or he attempted to. First, they had great difficulty getting his mic to work, and finally they just gave up, and Trongard gave him his mic. And Jerry Lawler, keep in mind that he was essentially a guest on this show. This was not his home territory. He was from Memphis. This show was in Minnesota. He was the friendliest man I've ever heard on this promo.
He was so polite,
so happy and fortunate to be a part in this huge show with such a great company. I'm happy I was fortunate enough to get a win tonight over a tough opponent like John Tolos. I didn't want to win by DQ after going over the top rope. I'm happy I got to come in.
I was so grateful for the referee not calling that a DQ.
That was the word. So, Dizzy Ed Boulder here. He has Wahoo down. He lays his knee or his shin across Wahoo's throat and does the double bicep.
Oh, my God.
Okay, this is a choke, right?
Dude.
In every company you've ever seen?
In every company I've ever seen, I've done this move. I've had this move done on me. I mean, you put your shit across the fucking guy's throat and you yell at the referee, so the referee's distracted as you choke the guy.
Yeah. So Dizzy Ed Boulder does this and does a double bicep pose, and next thing you know, the ref's counting pins.
Yeah, because this dumb shit does it facing away from the referee.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do it facing the referee, so you explain to the referee, you ask him some question or something, he's not paying attention, you're choking the guy. Fucking Brutus faces the wrong way. His shin is right across the guy's throat. The referee's checking the shoulders.
Yeah, the ref is the dumb shit here.
I partially blame Wahoo, because like Wahoo should have just said, it's a fucking choke, you dumb shit. Could you fucking break this up?
Sure.
Just laid there for a minute.
So I had no idea what was going on, and next thing you know, Wahoo hit finally one big chop and an elbow drop and pinned him.
It's actually a falling chop, but it looks like an elbow drop to the arm.
I see.
It's supposed to be he falls onto his back and chops the guy on the way down.
I see.
It's preposterous.
Yeah.
And I love Wahoo.
So there you go. That's the first hour of Super Sunday.
First hour of Super Sunday. Next week, it'll be Blackjack Lanza, Jesse Ventura, and Ken Patera versus Rick Martel and the High Flyers.
Oh, my God.
Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell.
I want to get Ken Patera and Greg Gagne in the same ring. That's going to be awesome.
Nick Bockwinkel, Hulk Hogan, and the Mad Dog and Gagne versus Adnan and Sheik Jerry Blackwell match. Next week here on this program.
That's right. Super Sunday?
Super Sunday,
Second
baby.
half of the AWA Super Sunday show.
You know, speaking of nitpicks, this is the opposite of a nitpick. Is this a 6-man that we start with?
Yeah.
All right. You know who's a great babyface?
Rick Martel. He's so great, he's killed you.
Rick Martel's a great babyface. Now, I had totally forgotten about this because it's been so long since I've wrestled. But Rick Martel did the old school babyface deal where the good guy stands in the middle of the ring and the heel walks around him in a circle. Which, by the way, reminds me of a funny story I don't think I've ever told here on this show.
Oh, good.
So, the babyface stands in the middle of the ring because the babyface is ready to fight.
Right.
The fight's in the middle of the ring. Babyface stands in the middle of the ring. He's got his fists up. He's like, come on, motherfucker, let's do this.
Yeah.
The heel stands on the outside, and he walks around the babyface counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm.
He circles the babyface, getting ready to do the big lockup. I swear to God, when I first started training, Ole Olsen, the very first guy that I ever trained with, he explained to me that he couldn't walk in this semicircle too quickly because he would get dizzy.
Yeah.
The goddamn ring is 20 by 20. You're not spinning in a fucking circle. You're walking counterclockwise around a guy. He'd fucking get dizzy. Anyway, I saw Rick Martel standing in the middle of the ring with his fists up, and I saw the heels on the outside, and I was like, God damn, what the fuck's happened to this business? Now everyone just jumps in the ring. The girls like hop, skip, and jump and lock up. The guys it's just so different now. It's sad. It's such an easy thing to do, to tell the fans, like, when you go to a show, if no one knows who you are, like, you gotta have some subtle clues. Like, you could wear a white hat. You could put heel on your ass. Or you put the babyface, the fighting champion or whoever, in the middle of the ring, and the bad guy walks around him. Why don't they do this shit anymore? It sickens me.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great stuff in this match. Ken Patera was great. I don't think that's a secret either, but he's a huge man, Olympic weightlifter.
That's right.
And Martel's doing these arm drags, and Patera's just flying through the air, just hurling himself all over the place. Jesse Ventura didn't do a lot. Jim Brunzell was a babyface wrestler, which is all Jim Brunzell ever was. Black Jack Lanza.
Dude. He looked like a troll doll that went bald.
You all must see this match
His hair.
to see Black Jack Lanza's comb over and how it disintegrates throughout this match. And by the end, it's like a fireworks show.
It literally is like a crow got electrocuted.
Yeah.
On a power line. That's what his hair looks like.
And then you shave the crow's head.
Sure,
the top of the crow's head, yeah. So, let's see. What else? There was a point here. Oh, actually, before we even get into the match itself, I'll read the names again. In fact, I don't think I ever read the names. It's Ken Patera, Jesse Ventura, and Black Jack Lanza with their manager, Bobby Heenan, against Rick Martel, Greg Gagne, and Jim Brunzell. So that's 7 dudes in the match. 6 of them would be in WWF before too long, and the only guy who wasn't was the son of the promoter here, and he wasn't going anywhere.
Never did go anywhere.
Never.
I shouldn't say never went anywhere. It was all Japan, a couple of places, but
He never left
in
AWA.
general, he never went anywhere.
Yeah. I also don't know who told him the yellow and white tie-dye scrambled eggs trunks was a good look.
That's the whole thing. When we get to the Hogan match, Hogan was leaving. Hogan was going to WWF. All these guys were going to WWF. When Hogan lost, or he didn't lose this match, but when he didn't get the title, it's not like the next day business went all to hell. Business was fine for a long time. They didn't drive people off. Everybody left. If they would have made Hogan champion, Hogan would have left the AWA with the title. What's worse, he didn't win here, or he would have left his champion? WWF would have stole the AWA champion. Or he would have had to do a job for somebody else. Everybody was leaving. That's what killed this promotion. Everybody in this match was gone. Except Greg.
So I've talked about Greg Gagne before. There's a point here where he ran wild on the heels, all of them. Greg Gagne manhandled Ken Patera.
Dude, he ran wild on everybody single-handedly.
That visual defied physics. Imagine Zack Sabre manhandling Mark Henry. He's not taking him down with leverage and technique and using his own momentum against him. He's just out-muscling him. It was ridiculous. So they kept talking about Lanza's Texas Brainbuster, they said. A very dangerous move. I'm thinking Dick Murdoch Brainbuster, the Jimmy Garvin Brainbuster. No, not at all. It's a noogie. If you ever had a little brother, or in my case, a young cousin, you grab him in a headlock, you give him a little noogie in the side of the head, and they go run, scream, crying to mama. That was Blackjack Lanza's finisher. A noogie. They did about 87 hot tags in this match. Babyfaces did like arm drags, drop kicks, and backdrops, and that's it. That's all babyfaces should do. And then there was about 87 melees, and somewhere in all this confusion, we think Bobby Heenan passed a foreign object to Ken Patera, and we think Ken Patera used this foreign object to punch Jim Brunzell and pin him. We're not sure, because the camera didn't show the weapon passing very clearly. Then like 2 minutes went by, and then both live and on replay, they missed the pinfall. But as best we can tell, that is what happened.
Well, here's what happened. Everything that Vinny said is true. So the match ends, and then it was like an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. For 15 minutes.
Yes.
They showed replays over and over and over again. The first replay they showed was a replay of what we saw, which was fucking nothing. They couldn't figure out what was going on. Then they did another replay. Finally, they think they see what's going on. They try to point it out to us. I mean, this was like the biggest mystery this was the biggest mystery in wrestling history up to this point, I'm pretty sure. What the fuck happened to end this tag team match right here? Finally, it did turn out that somebody hit somebody with a gimmick. This just went too long.
Yeah.
They had to give every single guy a hot tag. They had to give every single babyface time to shine and time to sell. Went on and on and on and on. It was killing me. And listen, I'm sure Greg's a great guy, nice guy and all, but his dad was like a 2-time NCAA champion, a football, like a fucking shooter and a tough guy.
Yes.
Greg was none of these things.
No.
I mean, Vern's out there at the end of the show, and he's like old as dust, and he's in there in the ring. But you know what? It's like you could believe that this fucking guy was the real deal. Maybe he really could beat up, and actually when you looked at his opponents, it was not shocking he could beat them up. Greg, it just was never like that. And he wasn't very good.
He was very mediocre. This led to Nick Bockwinkel versus Hulk Hogan.
What a match.
They did full intros. Like, they're in the ring, and Gene's doing the intros, and he introduces the champion first, and he turns to the challenger, and then they started playing Hulk's music again. And when I say Hulk's music...
This was something else.
Clearly it was Eye of the Tiger they were using, and clearly they're not going to pay Survivor for the fees for the network. So they didn't plug in Real American or the NWO song or his WCW song. They had like generic rock music. That was weird.
They couldn't just... Yeah, why didn't they put Real American in?
I don't know.
Why didn't they put in Jericho's theme?
That would have worked too, actually. So it's Hulk Hogan, got a full head of hair at this point. He's huge, in great shape, wearing red trunks, black knee pads, and white boots. That's very weird.
He actually, I'm not going to say that he was like a great worker, but he moved really well.
Yes.
He moved very, very well. His stuff that he did looked good. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was no technical marvel or anything like that, but he was certainly not horrible.
No.
I mean, if you want to sit there and compare him to Ric Flair or something like that, then I'm sure you're thinking, yeah, this guy, but I mean, he was a good athlete. He was physically impressive. He obviously had tremendous charisma. The people just going absolutely crazy for him. You know, one of the problems with this damn match? Hogan comes out in a shirt, and the shirt says, like, last chance. What did the shirt say?
I didn't notice.
It said something like, last chance, we want the belt or something like that. How could you not see this? It was like it was a black shirt with white letters. I saw a black shirt with
wording on it. I did not take the time to read it.
It was like last chance or something like that. Like, this is it. Like, this is it. It's now or never is what it said.
I see.
I'm like, why the fuck, if the guy isn't going over, why is he coming out wearing this shit? Like, you're just going to make people more angry. Like, at the very least, you could make people believe that, okay, you know what? They did build this up forever. It was the time. He didn't get it. But, maybe down the road he's going to get it. All of the promotion of, now or never, everything else on his shirt. It was like, no wonder this made people even more furious when he didn't get the title.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that was the point. The biggest issue with Hogan in this match, like you say, everything he did looked fine. He was a huge, mobile guy. He was still pretty green, but most of all, he just hadn't figured out how to be Hulk Hogan yet. And it was time to come back, and he'd throw some punches, but they were no different than the same punches that he started the match with. It was just what he did. He did not have the... it became cliche and cartoony and almost self-parody at a point, but he didn't have the hulking up. He didn't have the finger point. He didn't have the big boot. He just wrestled the same match he'd been wrestling. He just was on offense now. So Bockwinkel stalled forever. Like, literally 5 minutes went by. He had taken about 2 bumps and just stalled. And finally, he gets in the ring, and he gets a series of knee lifts to the gut against the ropes. And then Hogan just immediately reverses things, hits knee lifts of his own. Bockwinkel goes down, and Hogan does a double foot stomp.
He did do a standing double foot stomp.
Yep.
What's weird about Bockwinkel is... Let me see how old Bockwinkel was here in this match.
I'm sure he was
40-something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, we just watched the Starrcade show, and Harley Race on that show. Let's see, Bockwinkel was born in 1934, so he would have been...
49.
49.
God, he was amazing.
49 years old. He's pretty amazing for 49. Harley Race was born in 43. So he was 40.
Yes.
Bockwinkel was 49. And actually, Bockwinkel did not look 10 years older than Harley Race. They looked the same age.
I would say Bockwinkel looked younger.
Harley had a rough life.
Yeah.
But anyway, both these champions, I mean, it was striking to watch both of them, the way they did the match. They were so slow and plodding and methodical. And in both cases, I was like, is he blown up? Is he about to die? Like, what's going on right here? It was not like Ric Flair was always going at 90 million miles an hour. But you talk about, it wasn't just stalling like he was stalling. I mean, even when he was on offense, even when he was selling, he was just so slow in everything he did. And Hogan's like young and he's moving around real fast. And it made for a weird match.
It did, and I'm thinking now about this because the comparisons you just made between Bockwinkel and Race and the Race Ric Flair match we just watched, you compared the champions as you just did. The other thing is both matches also had a special referee. Boy, howdy, was Lord James Blears a terrible ref. He made this unwatchable at times, and he defended himself later. But he was slower than everyone.
I got to talk about his defense later.
He was slower than all of them. Very slow count all the time. Often out of position.
There was one count that was so bad. Mm-hmm. It was like, I think Hogan did a splash or he did something. Maybe it was a body slam.
It was the Axe Bomber elbow smash combo.
Okay, yeah.
Because he used that twice.
Yeah, and he makes the cover, and I thought, man, if I didn't know history, I'd think it was over. And Blears goes, 1, 2, and he just stops. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't even raise his hand. He just counted 2 and stopped, because I guess he thought the guy was going to kick out, but I guess Bockwinkel was going to wait a little longer to kick out. Mm-hmm. So he just stops, and then Bockwinkel kicks out, and then everybody starts to boo. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, you're killing this match, dude.
So yes, Hogan twice. I just love saying this. It's the best name for a move ever. The Axe Bomber.
The Axe Bomber.
If you're not aware, is the finish he used early in his career in his Japan. I think the storyline is that it was an elbow smash to the head. It's a clothesline. It's like every clothesline you ever saw. So he does the Axe Bomber and the elbow smash and makes a cover. He did that twice. And Bockwinkel comes back and hooks a sleeper. And Blears got horribly bumped once. Then he got horribly bumped twice, and all 3 men were down. And even at that point, fans could see where this was going, and they started booing passionately. So Nick goes for the sleeper again. Hogan flips him over his head out of the ring. Nick returns. Hogan immediately hits the big leg drop, and Blears does the slowest 3 count of all time to award Hogan the match and the title. Place goes nuts. Hogan's celebrating with the belt. Everyone's very, very happy. The only good thing about this is that they gave this celebration time to die down. They didn't jump from point A to point B. They let point A sink in and people realize it. Then they made the announcement that AWA President Stanley Blackburn had ruled that Hogan had thrown Bockwinkel over the top rope intentionally. And that is a disqualification. And that means Hogan loses. And that means Nick is still champ.
My God, what a dusty finish.
The dustiest of all dusty finishes.
People are pelting the ring with
That, actually.
snot.
I'm sure it was.
They're pelting the ring with garbage. They're furious. When you watch it, you're like, dude, company's dead. But I say it again, it didn't die immediately. Like, it didn't. It's not like business fell off a cliff as a result of this. They kept on going for a while. Then Vince raided everybody. But man, watching it, you're just like, that was the worst decision of all time. That's the way it came off on television.
Yeah.
They interview this fucking referee, Lord James Blears. And listen, I was furious at James Blears, not from a fan standpoint, but from a, you're killing this match with your horrible counting. They ask him about it. They say, James, you know that some fans here are questioning your counting cadence. And James Blears calmly says, a 3 count is 1/60th. Or what did he say?
3 count is 1/20th of a minute.
Oh,
it's 3 seconds.
It's 1/20th of a minute, which is 1/60th of an hour. He says, it's not 1, 2, 3. It's 1 and 2 and 3. And as a referee, we practice this cadence. like you fucking go home and you just count on the fucking living room floor, like repeatedly to get the cadence down perfect.
You got a metronome out there?
And then he says, I'm right there in the ring, 1 foot from the man. I saw his shoulder come up. Nobody else could because I'm in the ring and everybody else is out there. And I thought, fucking convince me, dude. You convinced me. He did a great job. Like, I forgave him for everything. I mean, he was still fucking horrible, but he did such a good job explaining the job of a referee, the cadence, what referees do to practice, and why he knew better than us what was a 2 count and what was a 3 count, that I was like, you're right, Lord James Blears, I apologize for questioning your refereeing ability.
He said all this actually on commentary during the main event. When he sat down and calmly explained, in addition to explaining his referee cadence and what it meant to referee a match, he also said he was in great pain. I'm sure I've suffered cracked ribs, he said.
Yeah, you
threw it out there.
Yeah. Let me tell you something.
Breathing hard.
You didn't suffer cracked
No.
ribs. You'd be out of here.
Yes. So he's a liar, is what I'm saying. Anyway, Gene interviewed Hulkster, who said he's still the world champion. This is the people's belt. And he had attacked Heenan and Bockwinkel with a belt and chased them away, and people were pissed. It wasn't a bad match. It was a bad main event. The real main event.
No, the real main event was a bad main event.
Vern Gagne and Mad Dog Vachon versus Sheik Adnan El Casey and Sheik Jerry Blackwell. Where to begin?
Hey, let me put over Jerry Blackwell a little bit.
Absolutely.
This fucking guy was so fat, but oh my God, could he move?
He has to be the shortest 400-pound man ever.
He ran faster than Kevin Nash on his best day.
Yes.
He went up for backdrops like nobody's business.
Yes.
He got up and down.
He was awesome.
I could barely believe my eyes.
Yeah. Vern looked at least 200 years old here, but at the same time, he looked like a 200-year-old man who would beat your ass on your best day.
Oh, yeah. He was a very, very believable 200-year-old ass kicker.
Yes.
And he had decent speed. Like, he threw some punches in the corner, and I was like, God damn. Those are some good punches in the corner, dude.
Did Vern and Bruno ever team anywhere? The friendly old man team they would be awesome. Mad Dog Vachon was an ugly bald man. Let's not sugarcoat this. And Sheik Adnan El Casey, of course, was the evil Arab in 1983. So Blackwell, as I said, he's dressed also head to toe in black, so he looks just like a bowling ball with a tiny head on top. Just the fattest guy you ever saw. But he could move. And he was amazing. They got the heat on Mad Dog. beat him up for a while. He went outside. He got thrown outside, and he said, I need weapons. So he started to throw weapons into the ring, and every time he threw a weapon into the ring, the heels would catch it and use it against him. A poor strategist, this Mad Dog. So they're beating him with microphone stands and chairs, and both heels apparently had casts on their arms. They were hitting him with those two. He's bleeding everywhere. Finally, Vern gets the hot tag. And he makes a big old comeback, and I do mean an old comeback. He's running wild, beating all their asses, and he locks a sleeper on Blackwell. And Adnan hits the ring. He's going to break it up with his cast. But Mad Dog runs into the ring. He grabs the cast, throws that into Blackwell's head. That was a great spot. So now Blackwell's down. They isolate Adnan. They tear his cast apart to expose the broken arm. And there's some chaos. And finally, Mad Dog, he hits Blackwell with a chair. And then, not satisfied, he just hauls off and punches him right in the face. Right on camera. And he gets to the ring, and he yanks Adnan's arm, and Vern comes off with a flying knee to the arm, re-breaking it, and then he pins him due to a broken arm. That was a great finish.
It actually was a really great finish. This match actually was a lot better than I initially...
It was a chaotic mess.
There's two things. First off, where the fuck was Stanley Blackburn to disqualify Vern Gagne and his partner for using a goddamn chair and a cast and all of this? This was illegal. This was grounds for a disqualification. I didn't see Stanley Blackburn there.
No.
Showing up and saying, hey, I deem this match a disqualification win for the evil sheiks. Now, the other thing. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all that in 1983, all of these fans here in this building thought that it was real. That would be a lie. I don't know what percentage did. Maybe the percentage was high. I don't know. But here's what I do know. If you had done a WrestleMania and you built up for a year that an actual beloved babyface, let's just say Daniel Bryan, if you were building up Daniel Bryan going for the WWE World Heavyweight title against Triple H, and you convince people that this is the day that it's going to happen, if you buy your tickets, and by the way, there's such a demand for tickets that you're going to delay the show week and increase ticket prices.
Yes, they did throw in the classic line. Nick Bockwinkel has demanded so much money for this purse, the promoters were forced to raise ticket prices.
That's right.
Always blame it on the athletes.
And they got it, by the way, because the fans came to see Hulk Hogan win this title. If you promoted a WrestleMania, you built it up for a year, you raised the prices, you convinced people this was the day that Daniel Bryan was going to beat Triple H for the title. You went in there, Daniel Bryan won the title, and then you did a dusty finish and took it away from him. And then you had a main event match go on last after that. Can you imagine what those WrestleMania fans would do to that main event? God damn it.
They would not like it.
Oh my God, they'd hijack the show like nobody's business. They'd be furious. They'd be angry at the company. This was Vern Gagne's AWA.
That's true. That's actually, yes.
Hulk Hogan got fucked. His match was followed by Vern Gagne, as a babyface, by the way, in a tag team main event. And you know what? The crowd was into the main event. No matter how furious they were about getting fucked out of their ticket money by Hulk Hogan getting dusty finished out of the title, they did not walk out. They did not turn on the show. They did not boo the main event. They didn't blame Vern and the company. It was like they were legitimately mad at Stanley Blackburn.
Yes.
What a weird time and place. It's crazy. Shit like this would never fly today.
No. And nor should it.
Dude, Roman Reigns appeared in a fucking Royal Rumble, and they've not forgiven him for 3 years. It's not even the show they hijacked. It's not like they hijacked the Rumble and gave up. They're mad 3 years later. These fucking people were cheering Vern in the next match. It's fucking mind-boggling. If only it were like that again.
Those days are gone.
Those days are gone.